Ooh. We made it to another day, gang. How we doing? How we doing? Well, yes, I have notes, so I'm going to do my best. I have a task. So be patient with me. Hello, everybody. How you doing? If you're new to the channel, I'm Chad, CK Nathan Tool, and just every other day, wannabe YouTuber. You can tell how this is going, right? Yeah. Well, I'm recording this. Today's Sunday, so we're having a day of rest, and I was out here doing some little projects. Just putzing around a little bit because you guys know, you get this, you get the same thing, right? You got a day like you're supposed to just take it easy and chill. But if you're like me, you have a hard time doing that and you get antsy. Think of all the things that you got to do and you just you can't help yourself. Can't help yourself. But today's video, as the title stated above and below, Wyoming. Why Wyoming? Well, there's a lot of videos out there about why people move to certain states or do certain things, and most of the time these people are doing these videos and they don't even live in that state. Okay, they're living in like Oregon someplace or in California or Texas, and they're doing all these videos and stuff like that, and they're typing out all these neat little things about the stats and getting all detailed on you. Well, I'm going to do some of that. That's why I have notes. But really the notes was just so I didn't forget some things, because some of this is kind of important, or at least I found kind of cool. And that's why I want to share it with you. But I thought we just surpassed 4.5 years. April 2021 is when we moved out here. And so I'm thinking, of all the things, if you've been following the channel for some time now, especially when we moved here and the kids and I, we built the shop and everything, and all the little struggles and challenges we've had the last few years, I'm thinking that you'd probably be able to sit back and go, okay, let me listen to Chad and what he has to say about Wyoming. Why should I move to Wyoming? Or better yet, why you might not want to move to Wyoming. So, first and foremost, yes, we moved here in 2021, just after the old Rona incident and everything. We left Washington State. The preface, the whole video is, why would I want to leave where I'm at to go where you are, Chad? Well, you might not want to. The reason why we did it is because after 19 years of living in Washington State, Western Washington in particular, it was getting bad. The taxes, the lack of representation by your elected officials, regulations, everything. We were getting to where we lived in a well we shared with 2 other homes, and our well had been there forever. I mean, it was like 100 and some odd feet deep, near artesian grade quality water, no issues with the water or anything, and everything was fine. Well, we paid our electric bill and that's it. You don't pay water, and we had a sewer, or we had a septic, so you pump that out every 5 years and you're all good there. So you're pretty much off the grid for the most part with that, in that regard. Well, the township turned around, decided that, you know what, you need to apply for a permit to keep operating your water well. And we're like, after all of these decades, why would that be important? Oh, well, there could be diseases, there could be this or that, blah, blah, blah. There was no record of any issues. There was no litigations of any sorts or anything. It was the county turning around and saying they want money, and they found a creative way to get money from people, and that was to charge us like $40 a household to keep using the well that we had paid to drill into the ground. We pay to keep the upkeep on. We pay to have all the pumps and everything sorted. We're paying for all that, and we're paying the electric, everything, maintenance, all that stuff. Well, the county doesn't get anything. Once you apply your well for your permit to drill, and then you do all that stuff, then you're good. You're good. You're done. They never hear or see you again. Well, they didn't like that. So that was one big thing. And then the other one was the Washington State has no income tax like Wyoming, but the educated part of that, the established state said, you know what, we're going to create a payroll tax. It's not an income tax because it doesn't come out of your income. Your employer will pay it. Yeah, we know how that goes. So they were doing that, and that was for your benefit because you don't know how to save money for your health care or for your retirement or anything. So the state of Washington is going to have your employer pay money on your behalf. That's so nice of them to do that and get you to start saving money for health care. Yeah, it was horrible. That was horrible. This is a state that used to run the law enforcement and firefighters retirement pension. And instead of putting the money for police and firefighters in an investment account that earns money, they would put it in the general fund that the politicians can grab out of general fund and do whatever they wanted to. And then so suffice to say, I know I've already wasted a few minutes of your time, and I'm sorry about that, but that is a really big reason why we moved here, amongst many others. But what I did find funny about Wyoming is some of the statistics, and many people already know that Wyoming doesn't really, we don't have a big population, or how big is Wyoming and what it's all about and stuff. And people can get on there and start looking away at everything. But lucky for you, don't have to do that because I have like 4 sheets of paper here that can give you everything you need to know about going to Wyoming. First off, some generic statistics. Okay, we'll start out by saying Wyoming is the 10th largest state in the Union. It became a state in 1890. And we actually, get ahead of myself here, but we'll go back. We are the 10th largest state. We became a state in 1890. Our elevations only dropped down to about 3,100 feet, and our highest elevation is about 13,800 feet. So we're already considered high plains, high desert plains and such, but some of our lowest elevations are higher than many states here in the United States, like New York or Florida and Texas and things. So it's pretty cool. Some of the other neat things we have, because many of you know we have Yellowstone National Park, right? Well, Yellowstone has more than half of all the geysers in the entire planet. Yes, all here in Wyoming. So when that big caldera blows up and wipes us all out, you won't have to worry about the zombie apocalypse. You'll be dead already. Steamboat Gusher. It's the largest one in Wyoming, but it is also the tallest erupting geyser on Earth. The one here in Wyoming. That's pretty cool. Also, side note, with Yellowstone, national parks fall under the the Department of the Interior. And I remember a few years back, and I didn't do it in my notes because I just remembered it now, is the amount of tourism that goes through Yellowstone right now. It's at its climactic high right now. It is crazy how many tourists go in there. But when we're doing the math about, visitors, they buy bus passes and vehicle passes and all that stuff, day passes and such, it was something like $2.6 billion a year or something that the Department of the Interior earns off of Yellowstone National Park. That's crazy. I just think there's national parks all over the place. You should look it up sometime. See what like the annual visitation to your a national park is, and then figure out on average what's the cost to get in there. It's like $30 or something like that to get in for a day pass or something. You got like, you get like 2 million visitors in a year, and on average you're paying like $32 or $35 for to get in and stuff. Yeah, it's just crazy. So anyhow, I digress. Our wind, our geography, our weather, all that stuff. Wind, yeah, we have wind. Summer winds aren't that bad. It's actually because it gets pretty warm here, but the winds, they come around, they'll blow dust and stuff like that. We learned after the first year or so, we don't normally even keep our windows open much. We'll pop a few windows open here and there, but mostly you have windows just to go look out the window and say, oh, look, it's windy. So we don't usually open our windows up and keep them up, especially we live out in acreage. So it's a little bit dustier here and there's a lot more stuff blowing around, but we do get wind. Summer winds aren't that bad. It's the winter winds that pretty much everybody's on the same level with and say, though, that sucks. Winter winds suck in Wyoming. It's that simple. Now, if you're in the Midwest or other places, even in like Idaho and parts of Washington stuff, and you're used to snow. We get snow here. We get some decent snow, but our snow is pretty dry. We don't often get a wet, heavy snow. Most of the time, it's a very dry, powdery snow, but it gets blown around and whipped around, and we'll get snow drifts. And the drifts are the huge thing. They can be a bit of a detriment, because if you got a road and you're driving down the road and you're like, oh yeah, I see the road. It's kind of white, just some snow. I'll drive through it, and then you're done. Now, you hit that snowbank, because it's so hard to judge the depth of snowbanks and these snow drifts that you end up getting stuck. And it does happen a lot here. But for the most part, on a day-to-day basis, as you're going through your life in the wintertime, not all that bad, just cold. And I know a lot of people don't like cold, but it's a dry cold. It's not that damp, chill to your bones kind of cold that some people get affected to, being more that, again, that high desert plain, our snow and everything. It's pretty dry. Geography, when it comes to towns and stuff like that, we don't have any big cities. We've got Sheridan we have Cheyenne and Laramie, which is our two biggest ones. And then you'll have different terrains in each one of those. You'll have Gillette, which is a little bit kind of more like your rolling hills and stuff like that, and some bluffs and things of that nature. You'll go up towards maybe Sheridan and Buffalo, where you're closer to the base of the Bighorn Mountains. You'll see a lot more of the mountain scenery and the higher, bigger hills. Maybe a little bit more trees, but then if you head over to Keyhole around Moorcroft and Rosette and stuff like that, and Hewlett, you'll get more trees again, and that takes you up over to Devil's Tower, which is also one thing that Wyoming has a lot of. Historic and just amazingly scenic areas to go and visit. We have the Grand Tetons, we have Yellowstone, we have Thermopolis with the hot springs, we have Devil's Tower. You come right through here through Gillette, Wyoming, or right off of 90, you can come through there. You got Sheridan and Buffalo, which are really good tourist towns and everything. So that's really nice. You have a lot to look for when it comes to Wyoming. We have this huge this big like sand dunes down south central Wyoming. When you get down to Sheridan and you get down to like Evanston and Rock Springs, you'll get a lot more like the rock cliffs and stuff like that. It's really cool. Du Bois, you get down there, Du Bois is real pretty. You'll drive in and out and you'll go through there, through all the hills and the mountains and everything, and the trees. There's even a really cool military museum down there, a really big one. It's an awesome place. So we have a lot of stuff to see here, but we're kind of spread out. And that gets me to some of the other things that we have for Wyoming. Like, for instance, our state, the actual size of our state is 97,813 square miles. Now, Wyoming looks like a rectangle, but it's not. It's actually a little bit narrower on the top and a little bit wider at the bottom. So it's kind of deceiving, but we look like one big rectangle on a map normally, but we're not. We're just a little bit narrower on top than the bottom. But we're just under 98,000 square miles. And again, we have Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is a really good tourist place, but it's super expensive to go and visit and do things. At Jackson Hole, Wyoming, also, I'm getting ahead of myself, but Jackson Hole has the highest amount of billionaires per capita than any place else in the United States, too. So just to let you know about that when you're going to visit. What else? Oh, the funny part now, our population. Now, I mean, Wyoming's population is like 580, just under 588,000 people, somewhere around there, 590,000 people. That we don't have a lot of people. I mean, everybody that lives in this state, it's pretty much the population of like, Seattle or Spokane, maybe, I don't know, maybe Tacoma, Washington. Places like New York and Chicago, just, we don't even compare to stuff like that, but I like that. But the comical part is now, and this is where my notes come into play, pronghorn. That's these antelope that are running around. They're actually called pronghorn. Now, their nickname or slang term is antelope, but there is only one type of antelope, and that's found in Africa. But we have pronghorn. They're awesome. Speed goats, we also call them. They're some of the dumbest animals in the world because they'll actually run right into the side of your vehicle, or they'll run along the side of your vehicle and they'll bob back and forth, and then they know you're there. They're running alongside you. So instead of running away from the vehicle, they'll bob, 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 and they'll do that. Yeah, not the smartest animal, but very instinctive and one of the fastest land animal in North America. So little geeking out on there right now. But pronghorn population, just pronghorn themselves, is right around that 500,000 mark. Yes, there's almost as many pronghorn in Wyoming as there are people. Now, what's really cool is when you start factoring all these other things in, like our elk population. We have 4 subspecies of elk. So you have elk, and then you have different types of elk. You got, like Roosevelt elk and such like that. But you get these 4 other subspecies. For elk, our population is 1 to 1.2 million elk in our state. So between elk and pronghorn, there's like 1.5 million of them compared to people. So, like an old adage is what's the Indian word for bad hunter? Vegetarian. So if you can't eat meat in this state, then you better get better at hunting. But also now, that's just 2 animals. Let's throw in like white-tailed deer and mule deer, for instance. Their population is right around that 400,000 mark. Now, we did drop a little bit, and I don't have those specific numbers because we had some like they have this blue tongue and this chronic wasting disease and stuff, and it was getting hurt a little bit, including the antelope too. So don't like say, oh, you said there was 500, blah, blah, and there's only 436. Yeah, just go with me on this, would you? Okay. So you take deer, you get whitetail and mule deer, elk, and antelope, and we're already, 3 point some million of them to combine compared to people. Now we'll throw in cattle, because this is cattle country. This is cattle and horse country right here. When it comes to cattle, there's over 1.5 million heads of cattle in this state. So when you're looking at these animals, yeah, it's crazy. It's like, I want to say it was, what was it? I'm trying to think if I had it in my notes here, but when it came to animals, including wild horses too. I forgot about that. Wild horses are over 3,000 to 3,500 wild horses. They're usually kept on BLM land and everything like that. But then when you get to privately held horses, I'm trying to think. There was I lost my notes. I had it. I did have the notes for there's about 100,000 horses that are privately held, meaning companies that, ranchers and stuff like that, people that do barrel racing and just different types of horse sports and stuff like that. So we got about 100,000 horses here. Add in another 3,000 wild horses. That's a lot. So we end up getting slightly, outnumbered out here. So hopefully animals never become sentient enough that they start to talk and think and operate computers and know how to use AI. And we don't have to worry about our lives here in Wyoming. But we will never go hungry. If there's that. What else? Our population as well. So when you look at our population, what I found really interesting was our population. You have this thing where, if you got like the coal miners, and then because all of our coal mines are not underground, they're all open pit areas, and not like in the East Coast where there are more mines like underground they go through. We have open pit coal mines, and then we have our oil fields, we have our natural gas. But then we start getting all these other things and all these supporting roles here when it comes to the work. But a huge part of Wyoming and what it's become, it's like a haven or a bastion of retired military and law enforcement. Most people don't know about it or talk about it, and maybe by me saying this, it's kind of taboo or something, but most of the time you think, oh yeah, people in the military or in law enforcement are going to go to Idaho or go to Montana and stuff. Well, there's a lot of folks leaving Montana because Montana's getting silly. Oh yeah, and I'll talk about the politic aspect of that in a bit. But Wyoming is huge because not only do we have military bases here, active duty and reserve National Guard and stuff here. But with all the retirees that come here, and when you consider our population, you're looking at about 150,000 people out of the 580, at least 150,000 people that are all former military, former law enforcement, even current military that are serving in a National Guard or reserve base. So it's quite interesting, and especially when I moved here and I started getting into town a lot and doing a lot of things and meeting with people. It was crazy how many people you'd run into that were all former service members or law enforcement from around the country. Oh, now some other statistics here, which I thought was kind of funny. We have over 6,200 dairy cows on a family-owned ranch here in Wyoming that are milked daily. That milk is then put in those big container trucks and shipped on to Colorado, where they have a processing plant that makes cheese. That cheese is for Pizza Hut pizza. How do you like that? So milk here in Wyoming is used all around the United States to make Pizza Hut cheese for your pizza. You gluttonous monsters, you. So that was kind of cool. I thought that was pretty neat. We have about 3,000 National Army and Air Force National Guard members when it comes to that military law enforcement type of thing going on there. But one of the other things I would say, and when it comes to our state and regards to law enforcement and military and stuff, our crime rate is really, really low, when it comes to crime rates, especially violent crime. But we're in a state that it goes under the old adage, and I forgot who said it. I didn't write it down, but it just came to mind, and it was an armed society is a polite society. Yes, we have open carry. We have carry conceal. You can have a carry conceal license, or you don't have to have a carry conceal license because we are a constitutional carry state. So I myself, I have a carry conceal. I've had a carry conceal, and I have carried a firearm for almost, 30 years now. That is absolutely crazy. Population and stuff, and when it comes to how big Wyoming is versus people, we're looking at about 6 people for every square mile. And if you put that in perspective, if you look at something like Florida, they have about 400 people for every square mile. Washington has about 120 people per square mile. New York has over 400 people per square mile. So that puts it in perspective of whether or not you're going to be running into a lot of people. You're going to feel crowded if you meant to come here and you want to get away from things and you want to not be bothered as much. So being bothered. Next topic of conversation, politics. Yes. The old adage of politics. We're going to get to religion too, so hey, we're going to cover it all here, right? Politics. To say that Wyoming leans a little red would probably be a little understatement, because in the last 3 presidential cycles, we're going to go 2016, 2020, 2024. In 2016, Wyoming carried Trump 70.1%. In 2020, we carried Trump 69.9%. And in 2024, we broke the all-time record for the entire United States. Wyoming voted more red than any other state in the United States, and that was 71.6% for Trump. Yes, that is true. You might be like, oh, hey, my whole state was red. When you break down and you look at it closely, and you look at the numbers, you had Democrats spread throughout. Your counties were red. Your whole state looks red, and your counties were red. But when you break down those counties and you look at how many people in each one of those counties actually voted Democrat, then that makes your state's whole entire number. Wyoming carried the highest number for 2024's election at 71.6%. We will vote red. We will vote red for many, many years to go. Jackson Hole, like I said earlier in the video, it's because of all the billionaires and all the stuff going on there. We have so many billionaires here because Wyoming, and I'll get to the other part of it when it comes to business and taxes and all that stuff, but they come here and use Wyoming as a safe haven. That's what they do. They come here and they live here, and then they run their businesses other places, but they don't change their voting. And what's really ironic is it's gotten so bad there that I think the average house is like $2 point some million. there, but people that work in Jackson Hole cannot live in Jackson Hole. The people that have slowly moved into that place and infested it with all of that, their thinking and their whatever their culture is, they've chased out the people that would go there to give them services. If you work at a bank, if you work at a hardware store, a restaurant, whatever it is, these people can't afford to live in those places, and they got to live outside of town. Many of them have to drive over an hour, hour and a half just to go to home and back to work again. And mostly in the summer, it's not bad, but in wintertime, it's horrible. So, but that puts that in perspective, that mindset and that thinking that I was talking about with Washington, it's happened there. I say that now, and you might be like, oh, I'm being hateful on, like Democrats or blue and stuff like that, but I'm not doing that. But having lived in Illinois, in Maryland, in California, and now Washington, and now Wyoming, this is the first entirely red state I've lived in, and I've worked and seen and lived, paid taxes in all those other blue states, and they were all pretty much the same. All the problems they had, whether it was drugs or crime, and they always say they run out of money and stuff. They don't know how to do it. And here we're not having that problem. Now, I would say, as a little caveat to that note, they are saying that we're going to run short on money, but that's because they turned around and they voted our property taxes, and they gave everybody a property tax opportunity of 25% off on your property taxes. So my property taxes went down quite a bit. So that is a good thing, but there is a flip side to that. And that is you end up with not enough money to do that. But I'm going to get to that money part in a little bit, and that's what rubs a lot of people here in Wyoming when our politicians say we need more money. We're like, yeah, hold on there, Junior. Let's hold off for a second. But getting back to the politics and stuff here, it was around 2012. It was Wyoming resident Foster Friese. Sorry, I'm going to butcher that name, but he donated him and his wife donated like $25,000 or something like that to this young guy that was just getting into the conservative movement, that got his voice heard better and got his movement going. And it's the guy that started Turning Point USA. Yes, yours truly, Charlie Kirk. One of the biggest donators that Charlie Kirk got was actually right here in Wyoming when he first got his start. The story behind that is he was hitting up people for money, trying to do stuff, came across them, his husband and wife, and was asking about that because they were doing grants and things of that nature. And they're like, you know what? I think he wanted like $50,000 or something to get started. And they told him, they said, well, if you can raise half of it, we'll give you the other half. He left, and about 2 weeks later, through all these other people that were donating money, came back and said, I got all these other people. He had the 25 grand, so they donated, and they had been supporting Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk and his family and everybody for ever since. So that was really cool to know that. Wyoming's tax system for businesses and stuff is actually rated #1 as the most friendly business tax climate in the United States. Did I mention Jackson Hole, Wyoming? Yeah. Now you see why. But we don't have a lot of issues we have no income tax. There's no tax on Social Security, no tax on your pensions. We have a very low property tax. Here in Gillette, we have a 5% sales tax. I don't think it gets any higher than 6% in this state. I don't know Jackson Hole. I didn't check theirs. Yeah, so corporate sales tax, all that stuff, we don't have any of it here, and that's what made Jackson Hole so popular. Now, we are building up a little bit, and this will, real quickly too, is there's not a lot of heavy building code requirements and regulations and stuff like that. So that's something else that you might like, you know, be able to do things on your property. If you're living in like counties, more rural areas and stuff. If you're in the city, yeah, there's some building permits and stuff you have to go through like usual, but it's not too bad. And actually, the building permits would probably save you a little bit of grief because of the fact that building permits kind of keep people honest to make sure you don't shortcut things. What I might want to shortcut on might work for me, but I don't do it the best. And then when I sell the house and you're stuck with it and then it breaks and then you're stuck with that, you know, that's not too bad there. So covered all the other stuff there. That leads us into some of the more struggles too with here living in a smaller town in a state like Wyoming in rural areas like this is like your social life and getting people to do things for you, or whatever services and such. When you move to a place like Wyoming, you have to be able to cope or learn to go without or live with less. Yeah, we have, Amazon and UPS and stuff delivers, and FedEx and all that kind of stuff, but we don't have huge outlet malls. We don't have, all these big hot spots and like, 10 screen movie theaters that seat 20,000 people and all that kind of stuff. We don't have that. We have some nice restaurants. Yeah, you can get your Starbucks, which I don't recommend. Recommend you go into some local coffee shops like Wyoming House of Coffee or City Brew, stuff like that. You do those you support those small businesses. And that's what Wyoming, and especially here in my town, is big, because Gillette is actually, I've gone through all those statistics for you about Wyoming itself. Gillette is the most conservative city or town, and the most conservative county, being Campbell, in the state of Wyoming. So that really pushes for the edge. But you do have to get by with getting less. If you're used to going to a store and getting something off the shelf really easy, like if you live in Tacoma or Spokane or Chicago or something or Schaumburg or someplace like that, you have access to stuff a lot easier, even like we did when we lived in Washington State. I mean, if we didn't have it if it wasn't in Tacoma or Bremerton or Gig Harbor or Port Orchard, it was in Silverdale or Seattle or something like that. So it wasn't that bad, but you have to kind of get used to that. We do have some theaters here. We got some bowling alleys. We got big box stores like a Home Depot, Menards, True Values, Ace Hardware, kind of things like that. We got some good steak joints. We got some Mexican restaurants. We got a Korean Q-pot, things like that. So you're going to have a variety of food, but we don't have the specialty foods like I absolutely miss having lived in Chicago or even near Seattle. That by far, because I'm a foodie, I just like the foods and stuff like that, but you don't get that as much. Now, with that said, we do tend to go towards Rapid City, South Dakota. They got a really good variety of restaurants there and stuff, because Rapid City's gotten pretty big. They're like 100 and some thousand people already, so it's getting to be a really big town. They got a ton of stuff there. It's a couple-hour drive, but that's kind of the thing here. That's the norm. You go down to Casper, it's 2-hour drive. You go out to Rapid City, 2-hour drive. Then if you want to go further, then you're up in Billings. It's a 4-hour drive. Cheyenne, 4-hour drive. Folks are used to doing that because there's no traffic. You're just getting on a highway. You're setting your cruise control for 80 because that's our speed limit, and you just go. That's it. So yes, we do have an 80-mile-an-hour speed limit too. For most of it's 70 and 65, but all of 90 and stuff and 25 and all that, it's all 80 miles an hour. So you will have a harder time finding people to do things for you. Now, we have mechanics. There's a fairly good amount of mechanics here because this town is really mechanical, welding, steel, some fabricating, stuff like that. That's part of it. It's in the blood of Wyoming and here in Gillette. What you do have a hard time with is the trades, meaning tile setting, carpeting, hardwood flooring, drywall installation, plumbing, electric, stuff like that, building a garage and things of that nature. You will find a lot of people will say they can do it for you. They can't. Definitely, when you move to Wyoming, you are going to spend at least a year living in your home, working at all the kinks, and starting to try to feel the lay of the land and get to know and start talking to people about tradesmen. Who can do this, who can do that, and so on and so forth. And give yourself a year or two before you really jump in. I was fortunate. I ended up getting a really good electrician and plumber. Phenomenal guys that helped me with the shop and with our home and everything. But most of all the construction stuff, framing and all that, I did. That's what I used to do. And that's what I was trained to do. And I'm not afraid of doing it. And I'm educated in it. So it's just sometimes you can only do so much. You can't do it yourself. And that can be a problem. So you got to get used to being a little bit more self-sufficient, doing some things on your own and learning about it. Good thing for YouTube, right? Now let's go into services such like medical. We covered the automotive and repair and stuff, shopping malls. Medical is another thing. There's a lot of stuff that we still travel over to South Dakota for, especially my dad's stuff. We have to go to South Dakota for, whether it was Spearfish or Rapid City. But there's a really big family-owned medical system being developed here in Gillette. And it's Hoskins, and it's really up and coming. It's expanding really fast. All the family they're all, business people in the medical field. They're inventors. They're really intelligent people, and they've been really investing in Wyoming and, more importantly, in Gillette to really kick things off really good. And there was actually an article recently about them wanting to make Gillette and Wyoming to be like the Mayo Clinic of the West right here. They really want to start bringing more people in and doing that kind of stuff. And that's going to segue into my next thing, which is transplants. Okay, transplants, one of the touchier subjects, although like politics isn't, right? Transplants, I'm going to tell you right now, Wyoming still does not, I shouldn't say welcome you, but there's a lot of people here in Wyoming that aren't necessarily very warming to transplants. And you're going to get that because, and a lot of it is the old cattle industry and maybe a little bit of mining, but it's mostly that cattle, that ranching industry right there. The people, again, they don't want a big town. They don't want to live in it. They want to live rural. They want, peace and quiet. They want all this stuff. There's a really big, it's a double-edged sword when you have that, when you want that, like me. But I would have to say in the last 5 years, and even talking to people that moved here maybe 2, 3, 5 years before I did, they have said, and they said the same thing too, and they said it has come around. A lot of people have softened up to the idea of people moving here to Wyoming, and especially my town, because they're like me. They're like my wife, the kids, they're more like-minded. I can't relate when it comes to cattle ranching, riding a horse and stuff like that. I can't relate to that. I don't know what that lifestyle is like. But what I can relate to is, being family, being, orientated to helping your neighbor out and just, letting you do you, okay? And be, and if you need help, hey, give me a shout. See if I can help you kind of thing. So you are going to get that, and that also goes back to that self-reliance kind of thing. You got to be able to help yourself a lot because there's some sturdy people here, generational, and they're used to doing stuff themselves. When they do something, like they make something, it might not look the prettiest, but it's going to probably hold up pretty good. It probably wasn't done to code, and it's probably nothing that you would be able to sell, but it's going to hold up and it's going to last a while. So there is that. And I think some of you might know what I'm talking about there, but so that's kind of thing there. So when you're moving to Wyoming, you got to be a little self-sufficient. You got to be there's friendly people, but you got to be willing to, pay your dues and be patient, just like trying to find a contractor or something. Just take your time and slowly but surely work your way in, and you'll find some good people. We found a good church. We found a really good church. And as you guys know, I've been doing Joshua's Men classes. I just started one a few weeks ago. So I got another one of those going. And those guys, all three of them are right from my church. Really good, solid fellas. And we're just having a good time, enjoying ourselves. And then one of the guys from the previous one, Jacob, he came out to hang out. Because that's what it's all about. Once you're part of it, you come out and hang out, see what everybody's doing, poke fun, have a donut, just chill, just relax. And that's what's nice about it. So maybe if you're a church going person, or thinking about maybe finding a church to get back into or something like that, this would be a good time to do it. And we're definitely a good town for it too. Got a good variety of churches. I'm not going to say one over the other or anything like that, but it's a good way to start, getting in and meeting people and feeling things out a little bit, and getting the lay of the land. That kind of helps. But lastly, I mentioned about taxes and our property taxes going down, and how some places like Washington, Illinois, or California are always needing more taxes and more money about stuff. what gets folks here in Wyoming is when our politicians talk about, we need more money, we're not getting enough money. Well, you have to realize some of these statistics here. Wyoming has always been, and to this day, this is October 11th, October 12th, 2025, we are still the energy capital of the United States. We produce oil, coal, natural gas, soda ash, helium. We've got our solar. We have guys here that not these big wind solar panels. They have these things not only like 8 or 12 feet tall, and they're on poles, and it's like this cyclical kind of fins that like spin around, and they're set up in like a circle, or they just follow the terrain. They can go around and follow the terrain, and then they spin, and that generates electricity. They cost next to nothing to build, and they're not as tall as windmills, being at 400 some feet tall. Okay, so they roll with the hillside, and they're not so obtrusive when you look out across the plains and you see these big things spinning, or in some cases not spinning, and they're on a pole and they generate electricity that way, and they're super cool. But having the stuff like coal, oil, natural gas, soda ash, helium, potash kind of stuff. We also produce 40% of the United States of America's coal. All the coal used in the entire United States of America, 40% of it comes from here in Wyoming. We also ended up, about 15, 20 years ago or more, it was called the Bakken oil find. And it was up in Montana, went up into Canada, and stretched down from Canada, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, that area. That's since kind of petered out a little bit and stuff like that, with regulations and everything going on. But here in Wyoming, we have a huge rare earth mineral find. And the rare earth minerals is stuff that you're using in your lithium batteries and stuff like that. And we have right now it's being considered to be the largest rare earth minerals find in North America. And they're going through the process of mining more samples and doing stuff. But not only is the company going to mine it here in Wyoming, but they're actually going to do the processing plant and everything right here in Wyoming. So not only is that jobs, but it's also income for all those minerals, because even though they own the land, like a lot of us in Wyoming, when you own land, you own the mineral rights and stuff like that as well in a lot of places. But the state does get money when it comes to you pulling it out of the ground and processing it and selling it and doing stuff like that. So it does generate revenue for our state. So when you look at all of that stuff, and then you factor in now with the big, little tiny nuclear reactors, and Bill Gates is doing it down here in Kemmerer, Wyoming, and getting that all set up, it's our uranium, because we have some of the largest uranium deposits next to someplace like Utah. I think it's Utah, down in Utah there, the Moab area and stuff like that. Huge deposits of uranium. So Wyoming is very mineral rich and resource rich. So therefore, when we sell to other people, we open this all up. We open these markets up to not just say you can't do anything but this one. We're saying here in Wyoming, do it all. You get some old timers that say coal, or oil all the way. But there are a lot more people, other than the windmills. None of us, I don't even like those big windmills. None of us, no, they're ugly. But now that there's other inventions to produce better wind at a lower cost, that lasts a lot longer than the 25-year lifespan that you get on those big windmills, and they don't cost that much to put up, and they're not that invasive for animals and birds and such, or they're not that ugly to see all over the place. It's really cool. So we are still leading the United States and producing so many different types of things we use for energy. So that's really cool right there. But so that is it. Do I regret moving to Wyoming? No, I don't. I don't regret moving to Wyoming. When Ben died, there were moments for quite some time that I did regret moving here, and I blame myself a lot for if we hadn't moved here, he'd still be alive. And that took a long time to kind of just like let that go and realize that I can't bear that burden. Things happen. This stuff like this happens, and he could have been killed in an automobile accident in Washington. easily as here in Wyoming. So myself and my family, we've experienced some pretty I had my surgery here where I almost lost my voice. And we had a wildfire a while back, just last year, just a mile that way. And yeah, so there's been some scary moments and some tough times here in Wyoming, but through all that, coming up on, closer to 5 years now, we met so many great people here, both with our church and just in the community. Met some phenomenal people that I had no connection to whatsoever, other than just maybe I worked with them. I met them in passing on occasion and stuff like that, saw them in church or whatever. But yeah, I don't regret moving here. It's a really, really nice state. We're not that far to go visit other places if you wanted to take a day trip to go do something, or even take a short little vacation, like the Bighorns and stuff, or like the Badlands in South Dakota, and see Yellowstone, go up to Cody, Wyoming, do things like that. There's so much to see here in Wyoming, let alone the United States, that no, I don't regret it. And I would recommend to vacation here at least and take a look at things if you're thinking about moving out of the state that you're at, and you want to move away from like communist California or something, and you want to cross out of the demilitarized zone and into friendly territory. I would say take a look at it. But you're going to have to look at coming to Wyoming with some really big warnings or just cautionary tales of you don't come here bringing a certain lifestyle and politic here. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not saying don't be a Bible thumper or anything, but I'm just saying if you still want big government, if you still want a big city lifestyle, if you still want lots of spending on social stuff, and you want to be all encompassing and warm and friendly to every single person that ever stepped foot on the planet, Wyoming's probably not that place for you. And you're not going to hear that from all these people that give you the statistics. I'm just telling you that that's how it is. Help your neighbor, help your person, help the people in your community, and do all that stuff. You be you, let me be me. Don't flaunt it. Don't throw stuff in my face. Don't start preaching. Don't get in your soapbox. Don't shove stuff in our kids' faces and tell me how I'm supposed to raise my child and all that. If I want to homeschool my kid, I'll homeschool. If I'm going to go public school, they're going to go to public school, which I think we have some good schools here in town. I like our schools. I think they're pretty darn good. Lastly, we do have some problems. We do have some issues and stuff like that. We do have, some negativity things here in Wyoming, like a lot of states. I think mental health itself is a big crisis. We have a lot of problems here because we're in the oil and gas industry and the coal industry. That's led itself to having a lot of homes that don't have dads, or solid homes that they're with moms and dads that have had, a couple of divorces under their belts and different brothers and sisters and all that, or there's alcoholism or some drug use in their families and stuff. It happens here just like it happens everywhere else. I'm not going to deny any of that. But I had our banker tell me years ago when we moved here, he says, we need more people that are like-minded, or people like you, Chad, because we have this mindset in Wyoming, or this stigma that we need to get out of that. We need to bring people in that still think a lot like us, but are willing to draw the line. My wife and I are coming up on 25 years of marriage, 29 years together. God, I'm so patient with her. Hi, honey, I love you. But need more people like that. So again, please don't take it that I'm trying to bash you because of your politics or your lifestyle or something like that. That's not the case. You're not going to get really good welcoming if you're going to wave these rainbow flags and stand out there and be like all these anarchist kind of people. You will be welcomed with a less than warm feeling. I will warn you about that one. You want to come here, you don't like guns, but you're like, hey, I don't mind them, I just don't like guns. Then come here. Don't come here telling me I can't have my gun. Don't come here telling me I can't do X, Y, and Z. So hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully, I know I'm going to ruffle feathers. I know y'all, someone's going to be keyboard warrior. I know it. I know it. Just, how did Kash always tells me? Woosah. Woosah, right? Just do some of that and they'll be okay. Leave the comments down below, and emojis fine too. Give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down, give me a throw up emoji. Give me a rainbow flag emoji. I don't care. Throw it down below. YouTube likes it. I'll enjoy it. Everybody else will enjoy it too when they see the comments and they go down there and check it all out. So again, I appreciate it, gang. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the support. At the recording of this video, my books might be getting closed shortly because if you haven't noticed, I got busy real fast. And I'll talk more about that maybe in another video. I got maybe 2 or 3 more videos coming up before the end of the year. And remember, we also have that raffle. I didn't forget about it. It's the booze, that bottle I got from Forgotten Coast Canine. I got that. I'm going to throw some General's hot sauce in there and some other things. And if you buy a homeless knife, I'll give you a bottle of General's hot sauce with every homeless knife that sells, as long as I can keep making them or do whatever. But I am getting pretty busy. I got to get these SWAT knives finished up here for these guys before Christmas. So again, gang, I do appreciate it. Thank you for all the support, all the hospitality. Got questions, leave them down below. You know how to get in touch with me otherwise. And until the next video, we'll see you later. Bye.